I have the distinct privilege to welcome to you Jim Muller. You may know him as the 4th of July guy.
Ladies and gentlemen, happy Independence Day. I want to thank the musician who brought us together, Ian White of the Crow Creek Pipe and Drums. And I want to thank Griffin Lindsay for opening our program by singing the alma mater of Harvard College, Fair Harvard. Fair Harvard was written by Samuel Gilman of the class of 1811 and arranged by Thomas Moore. Welcome to the 30th annual commemoration of Independence Day on the Delaney Park Strip in Anchorage. I'm Jim Muller, Professor Emeritus of Political Science at the University of Alaska Anchorage and President of the Harvard Club of Alaska, which has organized this celebration with help from the Mayor's Office and the Office of Cultural and Recreational Services of the Municipality of Anchorage. When Harvard College was founded in 1636 in Cambridge, the first college in the New World, the Massachusetts Bay Colony was part of the British Empire. 140 years later, in 1776, the United States celebrated its independence from Britain. That happened on the 4th of July, which is why we gather on this day 250 years later. So this celebration is organized here each year as the tribute from an older institution, Harvard College, to a younger one, the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gathered here this morning at the Liberty Stage across the street from the Veterans Memorial, our city's monument to honor the service and sacrifice of our military veterans and their families. Our commemoration begins with a salute to the American flag, led this year by Gordon Severson, a Korean War veteran in the 7th Cavalry Regiment. That was General Custer's old regiment, who won 4 Purple Hearts in Korea in 1951 and 2. He's also this year's King Regent of the Pioneers of Alaska, Anchorage Men's Igloo number 15, and he retired last month from his service in the Alaska court system as bailiff at the age of 96. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Gordon Severson to lead us in the pledge to the flag.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. 212 years ago, in 1814, Francis Scott Key was watching the British bombardment of Fort McHenry in Baltimore Harbor from the deck of a British man of war. All night he watched, straining to see whether the stars and stripes, 15 of each, still waved over the fort. Early in the morning, he saw that the flag was still there. He wrote a poem that tells the story in 4 verses. Soon, Key's poem was set to music to an old British drinking tune called Anacreon in Heaven, and it quickly became popular. For more than a century, Key's composition served the new nation as its unofficial national anthem. And in 1931, Congress made it official. Today, I invite all of you to stand and join Griffin Lindsay in singing our national anthem. The words are printed in your program. If you don't have a program, there are some people passing them out, and you might want one because not everyone knows all 4 verses by heart. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise as you're able. Gentlemen, doff your hats.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight? Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that Star-Spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave. On the shore dimly seen through the mists of the deep, where the foe's hearty host in dread silence reposes. What is that which the breeze o'er the towering steep, as it fatefully blows, half conceals, half discloses? Now it catches the gleam of the morning's first beam, in full glory reflected, now shines in the stream. 'Tis the Star-Spangled Banner, oh, long may it wave. Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave. And where is that man who so vauntingly swore that the havoc of war and the battle's confusion, the home and the country, shall leave us no more? Their blood has washed out their foul
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Thank you for joining in our national anthem. Our next song recalls that greatest of our wars, the American Civil War, which caused more casualties than any other war in our history and led to a new birth of freedom for our nation. In 1861, during the Civil War, Julia Ward Howe heard United States soldiers singing John Brown's Body. The melody stayed with her, and during the night she rose from her bed and wrote the words of our best loved American hymn. Griffin will sing the Battle Hymn of the Republic. Please join him in singing the verses you know, or at least the choruses. There are some sheets that have been passed out with all the words.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed the faithful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. I have seen him in the watchfires of 100 circling camps. They have builded him an altar in the evening dews and damps. I can read his righteous sentence by the dim and flaring lamps. His day is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His day is marching on. I have read a fiery gospel written burnished rows of steel. As ye deal with my contenders, so with you my grace shall deal. Let the hero born of women crush the serpent with his heel, since God is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Since God is marching on, he has sounded forth the trumpet that shall never call retreat. He is sifting out the hearts of men before his judgment seat. Oh, be swift, my soul, to answer him. Be jubilant, my feet. Our God is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Our God is marching on. In the beauty of the lilies, Christ was born across the sea with the glory transfigures you and me. As he died to make men holy, let us die to make men free, while God is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah, while God is marching on. He is coming like the glory of the morning of the wave. He is wisdom to the mighty, he is honor to the brave. So the world shall be his footstool, and the soul of wrong his slave. Our God is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Our God is marching on.
I'd like to thank our pianist, Debbie Pankow. Debbie was raised in a small town in central Wisconsin, the eldest of 7 children. Like her first 3 siblings, she took piano lessons and was given a choice: either practice piano or weed the garden. Fortunately for us, she chose the piano and left the weeding to her siblings. Debbie worked for the food and beverage business at the airport for 28.5 years. Now she plays the organ and directs the bell choir at Central Lutheran Church. I'd also like to thank our singer, Griffin Lindsay. Griffin is a baritone, a voice major at the University of Alaska, Anchorage, who has sung comprimario roles in many Anchorage opera productions. Now that you've heard him sing, you won't be surprised to know that as a young child, he began to sing even before he began to speak. He's been an outstanding member of the opera's Alaska Artist Development Program. He studies political science as well as music, and this weekend, as an Independence Day Fellow of the Intercollegiate Studies Institute, Griffin has been part of a student faculty seminar on the Declaration of Independence and America's founding principles. He's also been coaching the 16 other Independence Day Fellows from UAA and Western United States colleges and universities, all of whom from outside are here in Alaska for the first time, enjoying our sunny weather. They're not voice majors, but as you've seen, they were very game to and got ready to sing with Griffin today. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking Debbie and Griffin. Now I have to tell you something that's not in my script. We heard day before yesterday that at approximately 11:15, depending on the weather, who knows, there may be loud warplanes coming over the park strip to signal Independence Day. If that should happen in the middle of our commemoration, we will stop You can look at the planes if they're visible through the clouds, and we'll resume as soon as that breathtaking noise, which I think President Reagan once called the sound of freedom, ends. So just be aware that that could happen. But we're going to go ahead with the program now. On the 4th of July, 1776, the Second Continental Congress, meeting in Philadelphia in the building afterwards called Independence Hall, declared the independence of the United States from Britain. Their proclamation was the Declaration of Independence, written by Thomas Jefferson, and ever since our most fundamental public document. The Declaration not only declares our independence and thereby establishes the United States as a nation, but it also tells us who deserves to rule. The Declaration states the self-evident truth that all men are created equal, and therefore explains, since no one naturally rules anyone else, that all government has to be by consent. This is what we're celebrating on Independence Day, the American experiment in self-government, in ruling ourselves, that began on this day 250 years ago with the men who signed the Declaration of Independence. All 56 signers who mutually pledged to each other their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor were condemned as traitors by Great Britain. As Benjamin Franklin, who was one of them, remarked, "We must all hang together, or assuredly we shall all hang separately." The dangers were real, but the signers faced the consequences with manly courage. 5 were captured and tortured as traitors. 12 lost their homes. 17 lost everything they owned. 9 died of wounds or hardship during the war, and most of them were away from their families and their homes for a long time. Soon after that first 4th of July, the Declaration of Independence was read around the country in every city and town, and the traditional celebration of the 4th of July ever since has included reading the Declaration along with parades and picnics and baseball games and fireworks. As Jefferson remarked of our unalienable rights just before the 50th anniversary of the Declaration 200 years ago in 1826, let the annual return of this day forever refresh our recollection of these rights and an undiminished devotion to them. Now, I want to invite the children who are here to come forward to draw nigh so that they can hear the Declaration. You can come with your parents if you need them with you, and we have some small flags for each of the children to have during the reading. We're very fortunate this year to have Wilfred McClay to read the Declaration of Independence. Professor McClay has come to us from Hillsdale College in Michigan, where he holds the Victor Davis Hanson Chair. He's the one who wrote the celebrated new history of the United States, Land of Hope, an invitation to the great American story, which our Independence Day fellows read before coming together in Alaska this weekend. This is not Bill and his wife Julie's first visit to Alaska. The last time they came was in November 2018, and they were here just in time to live through our 7.1 earthquake on the 30th day of the month, Winston Churchill's birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Wilfred McClay and wishing all of us no earthquakes this time.
The Declaration of Independence. In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of those ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying in its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they're accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former system of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having a direct object, the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the repository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise. The state remaining in the meantime exposed to all dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to present the population of these states for that purpose, obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migration hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has effected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. For quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny already begun, with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy of the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrection amongst us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of their oppression, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attention to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. they too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in a necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, to conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to take a break. Look to the skies. Our program will resume in about a quarter hour with Alaska's flag song.